This conference will now be recorded.
Well, good evening, everyone. This is the April 26, 2022 Affordable Attainable Housing Committee meeting, and we'll call it to order. Can I have a confirmation of the agenda? Be it resolved that the committee confirm the agenda as presented. Hi, Muriel.
Hi.
Jennifer. That being said, be it resolved that the committee confirm the agenda as presented. Do I have a mover and a seconder? Jennifer and
A second.
yeah, I am on my iPad, so you have to speak up. I can only see a few of you. So is that
It's
Morgan?
Morgan. Yep.
Yep. Glad you're in on it. Thank you. Again, speak up. So that was carried. Declaration of pecuniary interest. If there's anything, you can say it now or say it through the meeting. And I see Jerry online. Thank you. We'll go to item number 5, delegations and presentations. Is Sherry here tonight? Sherry, you were talking to her?
So I will speak to this. I had talked with Sherry, and she actually went to her board and asked for permission to present to us, and the board did not support her in talking to us. And I don't think it was anything, I think it was just that they didn't think that she could provide the information that we're looking for. So I was going to suggest that 8.4 is kind of along this line, that we'll cover this material in 8.4 if that's possible. I do plan to have a chat with Sherry again and gather up some more information. I've also, thanks to Mary Redmond, come across another contact, and that's with Menno Homes in Waterloo, and they operate about 200 affordable units, and I'm thinking they would be a good source of information. So if we can defer this discussion to 8.4.
I have no problem with that. But on the table now is it be resolved that the committee received the delegation from Sherry. There's no information. And Lindsay, Holly, how do I deal with that? Like just
Councillor Shipton, if I may, it's Holly.
yeah, thank you.
Yep, if we don't do the vote, I can just in the minutes that she was not able to attend.
Okay.
I believe it's the proper procedure.
Yep. We want to make everything right. So if that's good with everyone, we'll do that then. Do we have to have a vote on that or no? We just
I don't believe so, Lindsay, if I'm wrong, but we do.
okay. Okay. Thank you, Lindsay. Okay, we'll go to number 6 then, adoption of minutes. Be it resolved that the committee approved the minutes from the March 22nd, 2022 Affordable Attainable Housing Committee meetings as presented. Any discussion? And speak up those who I can't see. If
Muriel
not,
here. I was just going to ask, yeah, at the last meeting, and it's in the minutes, we talked about the community survey, and we were going to talk it at this meeting, but it's not on the agenda. So I was just wondering where that was at.
oh, good question. I'm pretty sure we can. I'm pretty sure we can make an amendment to new business. We'll add you in or add it in. So with that being said, the motion is still on the table. Be resolved that the committee approved the minutes from the March 22nd, 2022 Affordable Attainable Housing Committee meetings as presented. Everybody in agreement?
Sure.
Thanks. Thank you, Muriel. Thank you. We'll talk about that later.
Councillor
Okay,
Shipton,
it comes to staff updates.
Councillor
Yes,
Shipton, sorry,
Holly?
Tom. And we just need
Yes.
a mover and a seconder for that motion.
Oh,
I
yeah.
will
I have a
move.
mover and a seconder. Well, Jerry and Muriel, there you go. Thank you. So we'll come to item 7, staff updates. 7.1, CHMC Housing Solutions. I believe, Dave, you're up on this one. And I think you're muted.
Okay, I'll restart there. I believe there's a
Dave,
package in
Dave,
the
you and I,
agenda.
we're got, you
I
and
think
I,
you're still
Dave, are
ahead
gonna
of me.
put a lot of money into the township. Go ahead. Sorry.
Anyway, I believe there's a package. I know there's a package in the agenda. It starts at page 7, and it's information that was provided to me by Canada Mortgage and Housing. We had a meeting and discussed what they had available, hoping that, you know, maybe they had information about grants. There is no such thing as a grant. There is funding for up to 95% of a project. And, you know, they're quite interested in working with us, but I think that's a vehicle to an end for a mortgage and housing committee to have as part of their suite of funders that would do projects. But I mean, it was good information that, you know, we have access to. And if we needed information as far as advisory on, again, the funding, not so much the setting up of a corporation, they would be quite happy to work with us. Anne Marie at the county housing, she was part of the meeting and was very helpful too in those discussions. Any questions?
Okay. Yeah, thanks, Dave. Any questions from the committee? Muriel, go ahead.
Thanks. So what would we need to do in order to engage with them further?
Well, we would need a project, and we would put an application in, and they would then review that application for its viability. The big things are that the facility is accessible, and that it you know, provides housing for, especially with this 95% funding model. We would have to put up 5% as an organization, whether that's the municipality or a future mortgage and housing corporation that the community would set up. But they have criteria that they would evaluate a mortgage that they would structure for a build. But again, it has to, you know, it's a competitive process, so it has to meet these criteria.
Okay. Yeah, thank you.
David, do you think that this, under the mandatory minimum requirements, it says must have minimum of 5 affordable housing units?
Yes.
Do you think the 10 units proposed for the medical center would qualify for this?
Definitely it would. Because of its, you know, its accessible, like it would obviously be accessible. There'd be an elevator, it'd be all on grade. The access to medical services would be a big brownie point, and that it would, you know, be for people with, you know, possibly disabilities or whatever. I mean, it would obviously focus at maybe people with medical challenges so that they would be, you know, right there and have access, not only be accessible, but have access to possibly rehabilitation services or ongoing medical needs.
But this funding would be to do the planning, not necessarily to
Sorry?
do the. this funding, with the seed funding, would be just to do the planning.
Well, it would fund the project. There is a portion of that you can get, like once you qualify, you can get some planning funding in advance of the build funding.
So this would be something that Alan Madden likely is aware of? Or is it
Well,
something that
it
the
wouldn't really
municipality?
be under it wouldn't really be under Alan Madden so much as like he's really managing the medical project or the medical build. This would be, for this one, we would look at funding the extra floor if it gets that far. And this would be a mechanism either through Infrastructure Ontario to fund it at, I think the last rate we looked at was 4.14. And this would be another option to fund that $3.5 million build.
And the municipality would be the lead in it? The municipality, Southgate would be the lead?
Well, at this point, they would have to pay until such time as we could put in place a mortgage and housing corporation to take that over.
Right. Okay.
Based on the discussion I've had already with council, I'm not sure there's an appetite to fund this for 30 years and be on the hook for that. And so I think we just need to keep doing research and you know, see if there's a plan that can be figured out to, you know, possibly put this in place and then transition to something with a concrete plan and get it into a mortgage housing type management corporation for the long haul.
So in the document, the municipal role in meeting Ontario's affordable housing needs that was included in our package, on page 29, last paragraph, it says, this marks the full return of municipalities to their former role as the central focus in meeting Ontario's affordable housing needs. Without the funding support of the federal and provincial governments, anyway, it goes on, and then it says, municipalities are now faced with both the responsibility and opportunity of meeting this challenge. So I guess I'm unclear. Are municipalities expected to be involved in housing or not?
So in Grey County, the responsibility for housing is at Grey County level. Lower tiers have never taken housing on. So when they talk about municipal, I mean, we don't have a regional government, we have a two-tier government, up tier, lower tier. So the role of housing, as they refer to it there, is at the upper tier or Grey County.
Okay, thank you.
Like when they refer to federal government, then now that when they talk later, both levels of government, I would say they're talking actually likely federal and provincial, and definitely, you know, municipalities are coming into this too. And I'm just looking at a reference here on page 28 at the bottom as well.
Yeah. Well, if I may interject, I asked that to be put in because it was a good report, and it was from 2001, which totally just adds to the importance of the housing crisis because it was from 2001, and I did look at that, and the province and the federal have let housing go down, and we as a municipality are on the hook for it. That's my take on it. So we do have to do some work. With the CMHC, Dave, was there two silos or two pillars that, you know, it's private sector and then public sector? Was there not one that the public sector, like as a municipality, could hook into some kind of loan or mortgage? I think it comes down to the crux that we have to really start looking at mortgage and housing local committee. But
Yeah,
with that being said, Dave, what I've looked at, it's always second tier, like you just mentioned. It's not the municipality, local one. There's a lot of money involved. So
Canada Mortgage and Housing are really Canada Mortgage and Housing are really I guess what I'd call them, not like they're a not-for-profit organization, is an extension of the federal government to fund and provide funding to housing projects. But at the same time, you know, they're not, I mean, they have responsibilities in how they roll this money out from a national basis and affordable basis. I mean, you can see on page 6 of the, it's actually page 8, I guess, but 6 of the document I'm looking at. But they have seed funding, they have preservation funding, they have national housing co-invest funds, they have affordable innovation, federal lands, rental, construction financing, mortgage loan insurance, and so on. So they've got a suite of services. There's a lot of focus, she said, on affordable housing right now, obviously, because everybody's talking about it. But it's everybody's kind of staring at one another as where's this money going to come from? So there has to be a dedicated approach, and I think we need organizations that have the tools and the mandates to, like a mortgage and housing corporation that we create locally, and like what they have in Owen Sound, that has the mandates to, you know, sit on a property and for 30 years and you know, manage that mortgage and manage those portfolios of assets to maintain affordability and to create this housing. But you know, government has so many responsibilities that what has happened over the years is housing has taken a back seat. And now that there's you know, prices got driven up, we're driving rent to the point of unaffordability.
So as for us as a housing committee, the CMHC would be like banging our heads against the wall. We have to do something a little bit more local, or?
I wouldn't say that at all. What I said earlier was that they're a tool, just like Infrastructure Ontario will provide funding to us. We can go and get money from them any day of the week, but we have to qualify for it, and we have to have the, you know, the borrowing capacity is one thing, because there's limits on the municipality's borrowing capacity, where if you put the structure of a mortgage and housing corporation, so let's call it South Grey Mortgage and Housing Corporation, that we partner with another municipality, or we create a Southgate Mortgage and Housing Committee that has a mandate and the expertise to actually manage a portfolio of multiple locations or multiple assets, and be able to manage the income and the expenses in a manner to pay that off, or that asset off, over a given period of time.
Okay.
And you're talking in for the long haul. I mean, 30, 40, 50-year windows.
Oh, no, that's right. Yeah. Okay. Jerry, go ahead.
Do you think, and this is a question for Dave and for John, for Mayor John, do you think that a pilot position in Southgate under the heading of a housing coordinator or a housing something or other, do you think that would fly? Because it seems like we spend a lot of time talking about all these ideas, but everyone is busy. If there was someone that would just, this would be part of their job, would be to sort of research and put together the package. We can help as much as we can, but we really need somebody with some background and smarts in housing and how to maneuver through the government.
So I think that's a great point. Is Southgate willing to take that on? I can't answer that question. We could take that to council. It might be a better approach. If you're going to hire somebody, you get better results with hire good people. So, you know, that means you got to pay them. If we could find the right person, I would suggest that you want to have a three-way or four-way partnership. Maybe we call it a South Grey Mortgage and Housing Initiative. And, you know, could we get Hanover, West Grey, and Grey Highlands into that type of arrangement and I'm going to say it, get really serious about it. But, you know, if you know, that way, if maybe everybody put up $20,000 a year, you could, you know, hire somebody for 80, maybe it's going to take 25,000 a year to, you know, hire a $100,000 person and really get at it and make some progress. I think you'd have to commit to like a 3-year contract. And, but I mean, that is not a crazy idea. I don't think we would have the capacity to take that type of bite on in Southgate alone. But is that something this committee should take the leadership of? And I mean, I would be happy to support, and I'm sure the mayor would too. We could delegate to those councils and see if there's interest to get serious about it.
Jerry, if I may interject, I didn't see any other hands up. We talked about that kind of on a private conversation, I guess, and maybe looking for a full-time employee of Southgate. But I think when you look at 8.2 potential housing projects, you know, I think the EDO, Terry, and the planner, when you're looking at Wilson Corp and private sector people that want to develop, when we're looking at 1 or 2 or 3 years down the road, they know there's going to be money made for affordable housing, whether it's putting up a duplex or a fourplex or what have you. So we already have the staff, and you know, I think we already have the staff there. We have to look at partnerships, as Dave said. We have to look at partnerships. The municipality can't do it on its own, and we have to look at these other people that are coming up in the new business. So we'll go from there. Any comments?
Maybe
John?
Yeah, I think a couple of things to keep in mind. Like, we're to the point with the planner and with our EDO, especially, that I think they're working beyond their limit with the amount of work that they have right now, and the way the province is doing things. And with our debt ratio, something inventive is going to have to be proposed to council, because there's a fair bit of reluctancy when the roads and the other things that were legislated for need so much. So we're going to have to be inventive to start with. And I think if a proposal came forward that did some of the stuff that was said, like of a few municipalities getting together and to have somebody in place. The other thing, that the question that's going to come up is, what are we going to be able to do different than what the county is doing? Or what can we lobby the county for to do more of in southern Grey County here? So I think we've got to look at things that way as well. The idea of somebody full-time to coordinate this and get things going, I think is a great idea. But we've recently had a lot of pushback from some council members on hiring the people that we have just to get the base services through.
Yeah.
So it's going to have to be an inventive type idea to do that. But hey, that's what we're here for, is to come up with some of those ideas and do things and get them around.
Yeah, thanks, John. I think the whole point of what we said in the last couple of minutes was that it is a partnership. And Dave, you know, it could be a multi-township corporation, because like I said previously, when you looked at all the partners, it was the City of Toronto Housing Committee, City of Lindsay Housing Committee, County of Grey Housing Committee. It wasn't third tier. It wasn't third tier. So if we can get something in the works with other townships, then the government's always talking about regionalism. So maybe this is one way it could help. comments?
Well, I
Anyone?
mean, we, I'd be happy to, I've got a few projects right now, but I'd be happy to put something together and, do a PowerPoint presentation to other municipalities if that's something the committee wants to do. As far as I'm going to jump on what John said, as far as capacity for planning, if I said to the planner and Holly, you need to do more planning work, I think they'd shoot me or they'd pull their hair out because they're pretty, we're taxed. We need to find ways to be more efficient in planning now without adding more on. As advisory in the kind of things in policy, planning policy advisory, yes, we have that support. And Terry has maybe a bit of capacity, but those would be roles that we could use her a bit. But you need, for this type of position, to start up a true mortgage and housing corp, you need an Anne Marie Shaw with that kind of background experience to head into this. And I tell you, if you're going to have a mortgage housing committee, you need true experts that are, have that financial management knowledge and expertise. So you might have to look over, the municipalities, the 4 municipalities I talked about, to get that type of expertise on a mortgage housing board that, has worked in the housing business before. Maybe that is a registered planner, retired, but you need some real strong experts in that field.
Yeah. Well, good point. Going back to 8.2, when you get people like Wilson Corp, though, they're building and they look after their own projects, this is all discussion. So anyway, any other discussions on this point? If not, Jerry, go ahead.
Only that the Y has housing. The Y has housing. There are other groups that are operating in Grey County offering housing solutions. Canadian mental health people have a few apartments. There's all these different sorts of housing, but it still takes someone, it's going to take some mechanism to identify what all of those are and then how it's going to fit with what we need in Southgate. And we can do it ourselves, like we can do to a point. But again, if we don't have the expertise that's been talked about, we're not going to be able to put the proposals together, and we're not going to be able to coordinate and figure out where does community health center fit into our plans. The way that this Southgate Corporation would be different than Grey County is that Grey County has a list and they deal with a specific client group. We're looking at housing at a broad spectrum, and that's what would make this different from Grey County in my mind. So yeah, I would support, if Dave has a few minutes to sometime, just to put together something and float it to council and see what they think. This is not going to get better until we get something concrete done, like something underway and actually something physically we can see.
Yeah, and maybe just to add on that, I think we need to exploit the low-hanging fruit, which might be, and we're going to talk about them later, but Wilson, policy or requirement of developers that are going to develop let's say 100 homes, and making sure that 10% of those homes are affordable, rent geared to affordability, attainability. And then, supporting the Lions Medical Center project with Southeast Grey Support Services. But the problem is that we're trying to start something without the expertise. I mean, some of these other organizations have that experience under their belt. So it's easy to expand if they had the funding. But again, some of the problems with some of these organizations is the funding to do that. And we're finding out with Wilson, the land to provide to them isn't readily available as we'd like it to be. But anyway, we can get into that conversation later.
Yeah. Okay, Bureau, go ahead.
I'm just thinking, like whatever we do, I wouldn't want to leave Anne Marie Shaw out of the loop because I think she's been very generous and she obviously is an expert with what she's doing. So I'm just wondering if like a working meeting with her might be helpful.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a subgroup of this committee, but to actually talk, this is what we think we'd like this mortgage corporation, I mean, not mortgage, but this corporation to handle our housing projects, and just sort of lay out that stuff and say, but we want to do it with you. And how can we do that with you?
Yeah. Without a doubt, I mean, every step that I take that I'm missing information, Anne Marie's the first person I go to. She's a wealth of information. I don't want to say that, and she may, but the Mortgage and Housing Corporation model to set that up, I'm not sure she's going to claim she's an expert, but she's 10 times more an expert than I am for sure. And that's kind of starting at zero. So, but she's a valuable resource. And I think you make a good point, Muriel. If a couple members of the committee was, I think Jerry's very engaged in this, and a couple members of the committee would work with me that I could bounce stuff off you, or we could set up a meeting with Anne Marie, or we could, Jerry could use his contacts with the lady in Owen Sound that, just to have this presentation kind of peer reviewed. Are we even on the right angle of how we approach this thing? But I think, and get some advice on like, what are we going to need to pay a person like this? Because I think that's the first step to really getting serious about setting up a mortgage and housing corporation. You need to look at it as a 3-year project, and you need to look at getting expertise that's going to come in and be able to put the right things in place and get on with it.
Yeah, that's very true, Dave. I think when this committee was formed, you said that this was going to be the most hardest committees ever formed by Southgate. And I think you'll nod your head about that because it is so many tendrils going into it. And I think with all this talking about, we have Flato, other developers doing their bit, and they're supposed to be doing, there's 2 different avenues for the housing committee to go. And I think with the housing corporation, the mortgage corporation, we're leaning, the developers are going to be doing what they're doing. So I think maybe the discussion in the next 2 or 3 months is for the affordable housing and that kind of apartments, that kind of building, what they're doing at Rose Lawn. The builders, the big builders, are going to be doing what they're doing. And as a housing committee, we can say, hey, well, you're not putting enough affordable housing in that development. But I think from what Jerry's saying and Muriel and, we're looking at affordable housing, social housing. Maybe that's the word, social housing. And that's where the local corporation comes into play, and we need help with that. So anyway, I think we've, if there's any other comments, go ahead, but I think we should move on. Muriel, you have your hand up? Yep.
I just want to know we're going to do something out of this conversation.
Well, that's hopefully what we're here for. Yeah. Anyway, any other comments?
I would,
Jerry?
I would work with Dave if I can be of help to develop a sort of a framework for a position and sort of talk about partnerships and see where that leads. This is also something that we need to keep in mind. I guess the clock is ticking with the election coming. So,
this has to be, we have to meet with those councils, and Jerry makes a really good point. Sorry to interject there, but this needs to be done in early June, mid-June. in order to get our point across and get some decision making before they go into lame duck.
True.
And
Alrighty then.
just so you know, I mean, we could bang our heads against the wall and have no success. I would suggest we'd have great success if we were able to get buy-in and kind of have each council push it to the 2023 budget cycle and get that type of approval and discussion going. I mean, that would be a big win, I think.
Yep. Very good. Okay. If we can go on, Dave, you're still up. 7.2, I guess, or whatever. A verbal update on Southgate-owned vacant land.
Okay, I'll go to that, but Jerry would help, and I just wonder if there's another person. I mean, Muriel seems very engaged in this, and I wondered if the committee could appoint 2 people to work with me and attend the meetings. I think Kevin, the critical mass of, I'm sure the mayor would attend with us, but I think 2 people from our committee backing this discussion up would be really good.
Okay.
Mike has his hand up.
I'll make a motion that Muriel and Jared, we appoint them to a committee with, and John can sit in on it too, maybe with David. Unless Jennifer or someone else has the time that they want to devote towards it too. I know myself, I don't have the time, or I'd love to do it, but I'm not sure what the timetable of everybody else is. So at this point, I would put their names forward.
Well, I guess we have a motion. Jerry, Muriel, you were kind of put on the floor there. Would you be willing to accept that? Jennifer, do you want to put your name in, or? No, I see a nodding head there. Jerry?
I'm willing to help with this, but I also would like to be able to contact the other committee members for ideas and input at any point along this trail. So
yeah, I don't have a problem with that either. Like, I mean, you can send us emails and we all can be involved just that much too, but just the 3 of us to get together, the 4 of us get together with Anne Marie and have a roundtable meeting and hammer some stuff out and then bring it back to the group, I think would be more productive than everybody being there.
Yep.
So
Jerry, you're okay with that?
I'm okay. Yeah.
Sorry, Dave.
Yeah, what I would envision, jumping on what Mike said, is that we would create, the 4 of us would work creating and bounce it off one another, a PowerPoint presentation, and then we would bring it back to this group, present it at the next meeting, and then get ready. And while we're doing that, we'd get meetings set up with the other councils and delegate there, but have this committee's approval of that presentation to go forward.
Okay. So are you okay with that, Muriel?
Yes.
Yeah. And Jerry? Okay, a motion was made then. I guess we have
Holly
to.
wants to speak.
Yeah.
Council Shipson.
Yeah, no problem. I can't see her, so thank you very much.
Sorry, we just need a seconder, and I'm gonna put the motion on the screen. If we could just confirm that that is what is wanted.
Thank you. Okay, and that was moved by Michael, obviously.
I would say the CEO and the mayor, Holly.
Yeah.
To create a presentation or presentation proposal to neighboring municipalities for a affordable housing strategy and position.
Okay.
Maybe
Is that all right with you, Michael?
Yep, I'm okay with that.
Can I
Okay,
just
do I have
throw
a seconder? Yep, sorry, Dave.
Can I throw just so that we can take this with us? Maybe just add for a South Gray affordable housing strategy, and I'm not sure we should use the word position, but staff person, staff lead, strategy and staff lead. And please,
So
critique
staff
it
lead
if
is
you
kind
will.
of, yeah, the staff lead could be quite ambiguous. It could be somebody already hired or a new position. So that's okay by me. So again, Michael, are you okay with that? You put the motion up there.
Yeah, that's fine with me.
Okay. Do I have the seconder?
Morgan, I'll second.
Morgan, thank you very much. And so that is carried. Okay, so now we go to 7.2, I guess, verbal update on Southgate owned vacant lands. Dave, you're up again.
Okay, so just to discuss, I don't have the maps with me tonight, but I think we talked about a property next to the transfer station. It appears to be part of the CAS land. Plus, I took to heart, is that the place we put affordable housing projects next to the landfill? And I have to agree with that. But, with that said, that's one of the more intriguing parcels we have, and that doesn't say much. The other parcel is on Dundalk Street. That's still in play. We have someone coming from the Grand River Conservation Authority in early part of May, and we're going to have the economic development officer and the planner work with them to walk this property and just evaluate it from an environmentally protected proposal. But that may have some possibilities for a small parcel close to Dundalk Street and in behind the old Kruger House, as I call it. Then the other parcel that is, I think, the most attractive is outside of Dundalk, and that's the Pro Station property. We're kind of in a co-relationship with Grey Highlands on that property, so that might be a great discussion that we could have to open up those discussions with Grey Highlands when we meet with them. So, but the Proton Station, where the hall or school used to be, it has a small playground area and then considerable amount of land that could be developed and just sitting there doing nothing. Used to be a baseball diamond with a school, I think. But anyway, that's the most attractive. And we also talked about with planning at the county that, they don't like developing out in the rural areas, but I think they have some more uptake, because we could take the GTR off of Highway 10 for 2 kilometers and bring it in, 73 and Ida Street to get into Dundalk, provide that transportation link a few times during the day. So that's a big concern about affordable housing being out in the country area, but with GTR available, transit available, it is still a possibility. That's really all we have to report at this point in time.
And that's a good point, Dave, about the bus route, the GTR, because that is going to affect the development in town for over 20 years. That's going to be a big it's going to loom large, especially with some of the other FLATO developments too, I think. Anyway, any comments on vacant lands? If none, we will move forward to 8.1, new business FLATO meeting update. I was glad to go there. I had a good talk with with Shakir, and I hope other members of the committee went out to talk to him too. So I have my feelings. Any other comments or feelings from a meeting with this very important public meeting from Flato?
I did
Jerry?
have an opportunity to chat with a lady who had been living in Skyview Motel and is now able to rent a place in Dundalk. Anyway, she was paying $1,250 a month at the motel. Found a place in Dundalk for $1,250. She said it's not perfect, but it's better when she's so close, has no transportation, so she's closer to the downtown. But the point that she was making was around the Rose Lane development. See, none of this had nothing to do with Flato, I guess, but just about the development. It's good news, but people were asked to vacate so they could redevelop Rose Lane. And I thought she was saying that the people were told to find their own accommodation, but no, I clarified with Ryan Milne that the Grey County Housing would find everyone that was in that building, they'd find them a place. And it might not be in Dundalk, it might be in Owen Sound or Hanover or somewhere, but then they'd have first chance to come back when new buildings up. So,
yeah.
Anyway.
Okay. Well, Jerry, that's good news, but 8.1 is an update on the Flato meeting. We're looking at if you went out there, what was your impressions of the projected for the lands?
So I'm considering my knuckles have been wrapped, and I will get back on topic.
I wouldn't do that to you, Jerry.
I think we should be very thankful that there is an individual like Shakir involved, and in the sense that he's willing to make himself available and he's donating to local groups and he's saying a lot of the right things. It doesn't help, like the Flato, all the Flato stuff, it's great. But as we know, with it has come some of this other affordability issue, and we can't blame Shakir for that. But we probably can continue to talk with him and see what his ideas would be around developing affordable housing. And affordable, for what he might suggest as affordable, might be something different than we might each of us understand as affordable, but it will suit a certain group in our population that are in need of housing. So
yeah.
I guess my comment about the Flato meeting is simply that it's good for them for doing it.
Yeah. I didn't mean to wrap your knuckles, Jerry, because I know you're a piano player. I would not do that to musicians. So no, that was my impression when I talked to him. The 3 phases were just that, a projection. He said the first one he's going to build, obviously, and it makes sense, is around the bypass. And that is where he's putting a lot of the affordable housing. So I think as a committee, when it comes to developing the other ones, we still have to say, hey, you've got the zoning order that has to be a certain amount of affordable housing. So, and he is more than willing to work with us. So, yeah, any other comments? We can move on. Dave, go ahead. John, you too. Dave first.
So I just want to put a bow around this a little bit, and not meaning to push back on Flato, but let's just talk about developers in general. The time to pounce on the developer to say, hey, you need to put some affordable housing in place is when we're starting it into draft plan conditions. So, and what I mean by that, so the next phase in Flato's development is they're looking for subdivision approval on phase 7, 8, and 10, and that's in Flato East. And for some, if that's on the old McDonald farm, for the local people, I see some know it, but it's too late when we're at subdivision approval phase. We need to jump on these things and ask for affordable housing in the projects when they're looking at draft plan stage of development. So for Glenelg Phase 2, we just zoned it. That's prime for, maybe we need to push back and say, hey, your lot fabric needs to include 8, 10 units of affordable housing, which would be like a back housing design. So I just want to preface that we need to strike maybe when the iron's hot and know when that time is. So when we start discussions with, more in Phase 2 of Glenelg and possibly, I'm not sure if it's too late for Phase 11 in the Flato East, but definitely you mentioned the the southeast project for the residential development around the Highway 10 bypass. That would definitely be prime for some affordable housing. I don't think we want to make one affordable housing complex because then it gets into some stigma, but we want to integrate that housing to make sure there's inclusion and welcomeness in that community.
Yep, for sure. We don't want NIMBYism, and Shakir said that himself. So John, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead, John.
The other part with this is we've got the province's ear right now. I was at a thing with Shakir Fleming College last week that the premier was at. I got a couple of minutes to talk to him. He really likes what's going on. Small community, a lot of partnerships, trying to do innovative things. So if we can come up with something, I'm quite sure that if there's any provincial monies to be had, that we can probably own our way in a bit. So we've got a high profile right now with the province, so we should use it.
Yep, for sure. Because quite frankly, what's rural now, 20 years is going to be urban. So they're looking ahead, just like we are, unfortunately, in some ways. So anyway, thanks, guys. If there's no other comments or questions, we can move on to 8.2, potential housing project updates. Muriel?
Jennifer had her hand up, and then I have a question.
Oh, sorry, Jennifer.
Sorry,
Jennifer, I didn't see you.
This isn't Flato, but I'm coattailing on the comment about developers in general in Southgate.
Yep.
So we have a big focus, obviously, on Dundalk area because it's the biggest municipality in our township, and the problems with Holstein, with their sewage, kind of precludes that from being much of a winner for development. But I haven't heard much about the Mount Forest Annex area, which is I'm much more familiar with because I live in that corner of the world. And, Randy Bai is the big developer down in that area. But is there any hope or ideas or anything happening in that corner that is Southgate? It borders on a different township and municipality of Wellington and Mount Forest, but it still is Southgate, right down basically to the edge of Mount Forest. I know Randy has bought up some land south of me, like quite close to me, in the last month, and I was wondering if anybody knew anything about anything to do with development in that corner of the world.
Well, I can't say anything. Dave can answer that.
Yeah. I guess so. There is, well, I think most people know there's a bit of development going on at Wilder Lake, but that sure is a long way from affordable.
No. I'm not talking Wilder.
Yeah.
That's the other corner of my world, but.
Right. So there was a discussion about, an affordable housing project being put on the rail lands. I think that was mentioned at one meeting. So that would be another, beyond the station project, whether there's interest there. Around Mount Forest, about 18 months ago, I did some research for a developer to look at lands to the, what I'll call east and north of Mount Forest in Southgate. So that is all to the east of Highway 6, but north of Mount Forest and east of Mount Forest. And I haven't heard anything back, but there's definitely interest around Mount Forest to create development. And that was not from a local developer like Randy Byan. I know Randy is working on different projects, but Randy tends to build or develop those more estate lots where, what we would be looking, for to really get efficient development from a housing yield on a per acre basis. The residential developers like Flato that's going to build the streets and the sewage and everything. And it's going to be very hard in future to even consider to consider a plan of subdivision outside the urban area. So it would have to be on urban services. And in my mind, we would work with Wellington North, but it would end up being an annexation project. So we would eventually turn the lands over in a 10-year transition to Wellington North, just like we're looking to do the same in Melanchthon for future development out there. So there is definitely Mount Forest interest in development on our side of the fence, and we'll see where it goes in time. Not the same level of interest that we're seeing in Dundalk.
Okay, thanks.
I just wanted to make a point. Jan
Thank
Powell
you. So we'll go to 8.0.
So Jan Powell
Jerry,
has
Muriel
dialed
had her
in.
hand up.
Sorry. Jerry was talking and I have a question.
I just wanted to clarify for Holly that Jan Powell has dialed in, and as we have done other meetings, she is on my cell phone and she is listening in, and if she has anything to add, she's going to be telling me and I will pass it on to the meetings.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Muriel, you had your hand up.
I was going to go back to the Flato open house. I wasn't able to go, but what I wondered was whether they had a good attendance from the community, and if there were particular either observations or responses from the community, like particular questions.
John, you can answer this.
Yeah, I was there for the whole thing. So I wouldn't say a huge turnout, but compared to our usual information sessions and that, it was a big turnout. I'd say most of the time there was at least 5 people from the public there coming and going, but for the whole time. There was a lot of questions that had nothing to do with the zoning orders of what he was proposing and things. A lot of the questions had to do with other things, everything from school buses to I don't know what. But there was a real interest, and there was a real interest in creating jobs and looking at affordable housing. There was mention of the schools by a few people to me, and that there was possible sites in all 3 areas for the schools was very positive. So to me, it was probably one of the bigger successes for a public information meeting that I've seen.
That's great. Yeah, good to hear. Thank you.
Yep. I would have to concur there, John. When I got there, I was talking to one of the ladies, and I talked to Shakir, and said they had a really good turnout. And it's all about looking ahead. I think with what's going on in the Eco Park, with everything going there, with the factories and the new houses, I think people are realizing that in Southgate Township, we're in a perfect storm position. They can help us out. We can help them out with affordable housing, and rather than having, God forbid, anything bad about Trim Friends, but that was putting all your eggs in one basket. Now look at what we have in the Eco Park. We have 100, 10 people here, 5 people there. all the on-shop farms. I think we're looking ahead to a really good position in the next few years. Anyway, with that being said, trying to get on to the 8.2 potential housing project updates. I don't know who I am to talk to about this, but Jerry's putting his hand up, and we'll go from there.
I'll speak to Wilson Corp in that I've recently had a conversation with Brad Wilson, and I wanted to assure him that the discussion looking for land was still ongoing in Southgate. And I did broach the topic with him about Proton Station or Drumore, rural sites. And his response was, the numbers would have to make sense. And so he didn't say absolutely not. He said that they'd have to be able to figure it out to make it work for their business model. So that I think is one of those things that who knows where it might go. So.
Okay.
Yeah, and just to add to that, likely what he's saying makes sense would be because he has to put water and sewer servicing in, which he wouldn't in town. So that's a big difference. Drilling a well would likely be, he could spend 30,000 there with a treatment system to supply a complex with a well, and a wastewater treatment facility could be, either 30 or 40,000 to put a robust treatment system in place, maybe more. But anyway, that's why he's likely saying that. He has the model for the urban settings, but not this one.
Yeah. Well, that brings up a good point. Sorry, Jerry. That brings up a good point, Dave. Years ago, there was I used to go to a little apartment building, 2 floors outside of Shelburne. They're on their own septic. They're on their own well. Is that something the municipality could look at in the years to come about, like, does it have to be hooked up to municipal? Like, why can't we, some of those lots that you looked at, and maybe that's something the developers should look at too. You can buy an acre and a half in the country.
Yeah. So there is a model like that in Holstein. I mean, Grey County has an affordable housing or a housing complex that Anne Marie manages. And I think it's likely 3 floors, and I imagine there's 20 units in there. I'm not sure. I haven't been in there, but they are on a water septic system, like their own private water and sewer system. So anyway, with that said, Michael, I think, had a comment.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I just think that, we have Brad biting at the bullet there, that we should, show him the piece of property. I mean, if we're going to donate a piece of property to him, I know the well and the septic's going to cost a little bit more money, but when you're getting the property for free and, working on some kind of a deal with us on it, I still think that it's worth, going to a step 2 with this guy, get him out, get him looking at it, because he's going to do all the groundwork. We don't have to spend any money. He's going to look after all of that and then come back to us and say yes or no. I don't think it hurts for us to show him the piece of property. Yeah. I mean, I like it better than the Drumore one to start with. The Drumore one is fine, would be a secondary, but I think we should be going to a step 2 with this guy, just to, show him that we are interested in them building something. And if we don't get something soon signed with those guys, we're not going to get them next year. It'll be, 2024 before they'll be looking.
That's a good point, Michael, because when Jerry and you and I went out to that one place in Durham, they did still have, a lot of them were market value apartments, but they still had a few that were socially assisted. I think if we go out in the country with septic well, I think that would be more for the working people. So I don't know if that would really apply to people who need social housing, because some of those people don't have cards. I shouldn't say some of those people, forgive me for that, but there is a travel kind of thing. That would be more for working people that could live in rural Ontario and go to work, more so than a town. So we have to keep the conversation up, that's for sure. Okay, so Dundalk Medical Center, I guess maybe John or Dave, could you talk about that one? Or the Lions? They're going ahead, apparently.
Well, maybe I'll start and John can add. I did take a report to council on that. I wouldn't say it was glowingly endorsed, but it wasn't.
No,
I didn't get thrown out. I presented it, and you know, there's quite a lot of hesitation in relation to our borrowing capacity and our, you know, ability to take on that debt and so on. We are going to look into a medical center fund that we have and see if that could be pivoted towards affordable housing. I'm not going to make any commitments that could be, but it's could be about $600,000 we've collected to go towards a medical center, which is not going to be needed the way this medical center will be funded. So we'll have to pivot that money to another fund. Whether that gets pivoted to another fund, being affordable housing or not, we have to do that research. If we have that capability with our DC study specialist, Watson and Associates. So that's something we're working on. And we're going to bring a report back in time. And, you know, I'm hoping to develop more work on that whole mortgage and housing corporation to see, because I think it's really, it's almost a deal breaker that I don't think we would get support, especially going in an election year. And I'm not putting pressure on council, but especially going into an election year to fund a 30-year project of $3.5 million. We did that some years ago for a waste system, and we're still, you know, paying for it. And that was an aggressive buy-off or paying out for the system. But anyway, we'll continue to push that and try to advance that and see what we get as part of the reporting to council on that issue.
Yep. Okay. John, anything?
Not really. The board from the CHC is open to the ideas, and but they don't have the capacity to do much about it at this point. So it's what we put together from the municipal side, partnerships, that is going to count. It won't get funded from the province as far as how they're funding the medical building. That's the one thing I think we do know.
Yep. Well, I think the whole discussion tonight is that there has to be partnerships. It's just not the municipality. Jerry, I might add a little addendum here to the 8.2. You did send a link out to a Menno Corp, and they're doing a lot of work down in St. Jacobs. Would that be the Mennonite Bank funding that? That's something we should look at.
Yeah, I plan to contact them in relation to the setting up of this nonprofit or the mortgage corporation.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
I would suspect that there's some connection with Mennonite when their name of their outfit is Menno Homes.
Yeah.
So I will pursue that.
Okay, that's great. Okay. So we'll move on, if there's no other discussion, to 8.3, recommendations to council. My 2 cents is there should be recommendations, obviously, before lame duck. It should be hopefully mid-July. I'm pretty sure we have some things we could give to council. So
I can maybe speak
Jerry,
to this.
you got your hand up? Enlighten us. Yeah.
I had asked Holly to put this on the agenda simply as a sort of a housekeeping, just for us to keep in mind that we need to be getting this thing started. And I think last meeting, Muriel and Martin and I were going to be on a committee that would create a draft to present. Hopefully, well, the plan would be, I think we need to say that this would be in draft form for the next meeting, so the committee can take a look at it, so that it could be tidied up and published shortly after the next meeting, which would put us into early June. And if that timetable seems reasonable, then that's what we work towards. I've made several notes
Dave,
tonight. Actually,
sorry.
I have it out in very, very rough form tonight, just based on the conversation of this evening. There are several things that have been said that this is what we should do. So I've got a page of stuff already that we could start the report with.
Okay, that sounds great. And Dave, since you're CAO and you're staff admin, when would you like it in by? Would mid-June or?
Well, I think likely the
early then, huh?
Yeah, we should likely no later than the end of June, or I would say the second meeting in June. And Holly might have to correct me, but I don't have that. Let me just pull the calendar. Do you know when
you're
Later,
doing
later,
that,
obviously.
Dave, while you're doing that, Councillor Shipston, if I might, it's Lindsay.
Yes. Hi, Lindsay. Sorry.
Hi, just a quick note on lame duck. So nomination day is August 19th this year. For this election, it's a bit further out than it was for 2018. So we won't know whether we're in lame duck or not until the 19th of August. So it does give a little bit more time than what we would have had in 2018. I just wanted to note that.
Okay, so like I said, end of June, mid-July would be a good time then.
Yeah.
John, you got your hand up?
Let Dave answer first, and then I'll jump in.
Yeah.
So your council options are June 1st, June 15th, and July 6th. Maybe tying the presentation of the goal or the results that the committee has done, and the presentation of our proposal to the multiple municipal group would be timely at the same time. I would hope to take something, to council beforehand to warm them up that was something that the committee is taking leadership of, and just give them a kind of a warm up to the idea, and let them know that we're going ahead with proposing this to other municipalities. Just to get there, I think we should get some sort of blessing before we just take off and start running around the countryside representing Southgate.
Yep. That makes sense.
And just to add to that, a lot of people call this time before the election silly season, and I think our council's pretty consistent, but we just have to, the earlier we can get things rolling, the better, because you just never know with things going on how people are going to vote as it gets closer to that end of the time for filing. So the sooner we can get things in, and the low hanging fruit that we can make decisions on quickly, I think the better.
Okay.
And maybe we may not be in lame duck depending on who puts their name forward. We may not get ourselves into that position, right?
Correct.
Yep. Well, true. So, Jerry, June 15th, with that, the latest, you, me, and Muriel can get together, have something done, since you've already drafted quite a bit tonight, as you said, so sooner the better.
I would like to see us, if we could, in the next month, get a start at this and present what we have in our May meeting of this committee.
Yep.
And get some
Fine by me.
input at that point. Get some input from the committee members at that point, and then that will be towards the end of May. It only leaves a couple of short weeks till June 15th anyway, so I think our goal maybe should be to have a draft of the council recommendations ready for this committee by next meeting.
And if it's just Bureau and you and I, we could do that, probably meet sooner and get it done quicker. So that's
think
all
so.
good. Everything's opening up. Okay, that's great. Okay, we'll move on if there's nothing else. Dave, you have your hand up?
Just in that discussion, if the three of you put something together and get it to staff, we'll formalize it into whether a PowerPoint presentation or a kind of a document brief or something. But I think and then we can present both of those documents, the proposal to the multi-municipal group and that to the next meeting. I mean, I would leave that for you to present, but we can put it in a format to present in a a slicker way, maybe.
Yeah. Okay, that sounds good. Agreeable, Muriel and Jerry. We can do all that, I think. Sounds good.
Yep.
Okay. 8.4 nonprofit housing corporation information sharing and discussion. I think we've talked about that. How
Michael has some comments.
Is there any discussion? Oh, sorry. Can't see you, Michael. Shout up.
Okay,
sorry about that.
No, I'm not sure.
No
It's not really probably this one, but I'm just kind of wondering, we know that we have private, landowners in town that are planning on building something. I just don't know if we can, as a group, or maybe we get Terry's help on this vacant property in town that we know, and just see if we can assist them in any which way to help them out, AKA the old Catholic Church or Manse property there. If there's a way that we can work as a group with them to start building some affordable housing. I know there was supposed to be one built back behind the old William Alliam's shop there. That piece of property that's in there was supposed to be a seniors building built years ago. I don't know if we can partner with those guys too to help them out, to get them on track, to get something, shovels in the ground, with those type of people too. I mean, we don't own the land, but is there a way that we can work with them to help them along?
Yeah. Well, Dave's got his hand up. Go ahead,
Yeah,
Dave.
so that's a good point. I know the Manse property is Terry's working on that to have a employer that's in the municipality actually buy it. And they're looking for multiple properties to create employment residential properties. So they are looking to provide affordable rent, but with conditions that they work, for them as an employee within their Dundalk facility that they're constructing. I know By Construction are working with us to do the same type of thing with some of their properties in Southgate to build, tasteful multi-residential units that they can put their employees in, and they've got a place to go home at night and hang their hat up and so on. So that is happening as we speak. I mean, there's it's like even paying $25 an hour isn't getting it done. So that's what we see happening out there, just to add to that conversation.
Yeah, and good point, Michael. We could be doing something, if they're looking at the vacant lands, maybe there's not so much, but I'm pretty sure, talking about partnerships between municipalities and private, again, it comes to maybe, foregoing building permit, or I don't know if you can legally do that, but getting an ease on some of the DC charges, which is maybe not a good thing either. But there's a lot of ways the municipality can help to get some of these buildings going. So it is what it is. Anyway, good conversations, guys. Thank you. We're looking at Jerry, go ahead.
I just wanted to mention about, just draw your attention. I sent out, thanks to Mary, Redmond, who sent it to me, this graphic that you hopefully got in color if you opened the link up, and that's the Menno Homes. It came from the Menno Homes website, and it's instructive in that this is the continuum of housing needs all the way across here from one side to the other. The last two sections on this document are the rental housing, market rental housing, and market home ownership. Those, the two, this little bit over here is where all the activity is. I can't get my hand moving the right way. This is where the activity is going on, but these are the housing needs. Like, so we're only working in, like, across the spectrum, we're only working like on a fifth of it. So I think if anyone ever doubts that affordable housing is an issue, I think we need to have this pasted up in front of them, because it shows clearly where our attention should be being diverted to.
Okay, Muriel?
Yeah, just Mary also sent another one, another graphic that she found, and it's basically the same thing, but it's, excuse me, it's set in a wheel format, because not everyone is looking at going all the way along the continuum to owning a house. Some people just want an apartment or whatever, but so it was like, you know, basically presenting the same thing differently, and so that it's not necessarily people working through the continuum. But there was that, but I'm also going to just say, if you get a chance, look at that Menno website and read some of their information, because it's really good. It's if you go into the housing projects that they've got, different addresses and different kinds of buildings, it also talks about how they came to do that project and what their issues were, how they dealt with them. It's really good information.
Yep.
I think a road trip's up.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe that would be a good thing. Again, it's all about partnerships, though. If the Menno Homes is Mennonite funded by the bank, they have a lot of money and they have a lot of partnerships with tiers. And I think that's the main key to get this housing thing done. Municipality can't do it. The private owners can't do it. The private developers can't do it by themselves. And that is the crux that we're looking at. Anyway, if there's no other comments, we'll go on to number 9, correspondence. Be resolved that the committee receive the items on correspondence. Yes, Jerry?
Sorry, Martin. Just we were going to touch on community survey. And I've chatted with Jennifer this week about the survey. She has some really good insights into the survey. I just kind of wondering what the feelings of the committee is around how much time we devote to the survey now, when we kind of know a lot of the issues already. Is it something, I know at some point we're going to have a community survey, because that's probably one of the boxes that needs to be ticked off for a lot of these funding models. But wondering where we go with the survey.
Good point. I think we chatted about this the other day, Jerry. It's kind of like the carrot before the, you know, it's probably something that should be checked off. But like I said previously, we know what Plato's doing. We know what our concern is about social housing, to use that moniker. I still think it would be a good idea to get a feel. Not a gigantic survey like 55 questions, but just maybe 15. I don't know what Jennifer's done, but it should still be done and sent out if it's ready. I don't think it would hurt. More information, the better, right? So that's my take on it. Muriel?
Yeah, I see this as bringing the community along with us, hopefully.
Yeah.
That, that they recognize the needs, if they don't already. I'm sure they do to a large extent, but to know that there are possibilities. They may take a while, but that there are, and maybe they've even, you know, maybe other people have other ideas or have experienced different options that they have comments on. But I think they should understand that we are working on it and that something will happen someday, because I think I see this as an part of the building the community awareness and acceptance of having a range of people and a range of housing options. Because like if our focus at some point ends up being more social housing, then I think we're almost guaranteed to have reaction to that at some point. And I don't think we want to, I think we need to head that off if we can, because it's not acceptable these days, but you can't just say that.
No, and Muriel, I believe in words, and your hinge pin word there was acceptable. So I think public input would go a long way to, you know, doing the NIMBYs. So Jerry, if you and Jennifer have something, send it to the board or committee and we'll have a look at it. I think it's pertinent to do. So we'll go from there.
All right, I'll follow up with you, Jennifer, in the next week. Then we'll see if we can't put something together and send it out to the committee members. So,
yep. And then
I
guess Dave, after that, would it go on the website?
So what we would
Council
do is I think we'd turn it into a paper survey. We'd turn it into a survey that could be accessed, say, through a fillable PDF online. And then if you think you have a method of shoving it out to people, we could send it through SurveyMonkey as well. That's a fairly prescriptive online method. But some of that I might leave it to staff to really make it happen appropriately. I'm just, there's options. People like Holly can make it happen. I can't.
Well, Holly will make it happen for sure.
Yes.
But I think it's still a pertinent thing to do, right, Dave? It does check off a box.
Absolutely, it'll check off some boxes.
Yeah.
I think you might want to look at some focusing of the survey. I think on SurveyMonkey we could pivot it that. So are you in one of these demographics? So if it's a senior, you click the senior box and we shove you off into a different set of questions. I mean, or you can just go with one consistent survey that would, you know, kind of catch all. But you know, putting it on the municipal front counter, putting it in the library. You know, if you know somebody, push this out to them. Give it to Mary Charles, the food bank group. We could put it in the good food boxes on a monthly basis. I think we only have maybe one more in June. Like there's one this week, but there's like, is there one more in June? Yeah, there's one more in June, and then they take out. They rely. Oh, sorry. Yeah, there's May and June, and then they take the summer off. So we get, you know, there's all kinds of ways to do it. I know there's a 23 boxes at Southeast Grey, and there's another thought that Southeast Grey roll out to people on a monthly basis. You know, getting into social services at the county, Barb Fetty and her group, and Southeast Grey Community Health Center have people they work with. So there's all kinds of ways just to shove it out there, but and get that feedback. And we may want to do a survey this summer or this spring, and then do another survey in the fall with a different set of you know, focus of the survey. But again, that's for members to decide.
Yeah, and SurveyMonkey goes on Facebook too. You can do it on that, right?
Okay.
I don't know, but definitely different venues.
Yes, Councillor Shipston, we'd be able to share it through the website and our social media.
Good.
Oh, great, Lindsay. Thank you. That's cool. Good. All righty. Well, we'll move right along. Correspondence. Be resolved that the committee receive the items on the correspondence consent agenda dated April 26, 2022. Save and accept items as information. Before we go into a motion, was anything there that struck committee members to talk about? 9.1, 9.2, 9.3, 9.4. I think we've discussed them quite a bit in the meeting. If not, I don't see any hands. Can I have a mover and a seconder to accept these as information?
I'll make a motion. Michael?
Thank you, Michael. May I have a seconder, please?
Jennifer?
Is that Jerry? Oh, Jennifer,
had her
thank you. I don't see her. So sorry, Jennifer. Thank you very much for seconding it. And that is carried. I encourage all the committee members to actually, when you have a cup of coffee or a cup of tea, to read through those lengthy tomes and get your acquainted yourself with mortgage and housing and all that kind of stuff. So it's all good. So we go to number 10. Next meeting, it will be Tuesday, May 24th, 2022 at 7 p.m. So we'll go from there. And adjournment of this meeting. Thank you, everybody, for attending. It's been a good discussion. So be resolved that the committee adjourn the meeting at bang on 8:30. So thank you all. Have a good weekend. Have a good
Thanks,
night.
everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good
Bye.
meeting.
Yep. Thank you.